All right, well, talking about things that are kind of annoying, Matt, what about oversaturation in the board game market? Do you think there's oversaturation happening here?
Well, I never really thought it was annoying. It's a concern I have. There's tons of publishers. They're all stepping over, especially these new ones. I guess Kickstarter's there to kind of help out with some of this, but man, it's just, the innovation on board gaming, I wonder if it's peaked. I don't know if there's too much more new mechanisms you can come out with or ideas. Every now and then, yeah, they're involving apps. Every now and then you do have like Mystic Veil where you're sliding card, you're card crafting in air quotations for listening on podcasts. So there are minor things like this, but I mean, otherwise it's, you can almost see a lot of new games come out and be like, okay, well, this is similar to this. And by the way, it kills it. No, but, it just, almost any game you look at, you can almost relate it to another game anymore. It seems, like I said, that there's exceptions obviously, but I don't know. I just wonder if it's peaking to a point, or if we are ever going to start seeing super innovative game design come out that's going to blow everyone's minds.
Here's what I think, because I'm slightly different than pretty much a lot of people on this. One, I don't really care, I guess. The more the merrier for me, because I'm going to spend my money how I want. And if I have that many more options, it's way cooler. Yeah, I have to make a little bit more research or do a little bit more research or watch more reviews or videos. But at the same time, it's kind of like, I'd rather that than how it was in the 50s and 60s and 70s, where literally 20 of games came out in a year.
Right.
That's just not, that doesn't interest me. I like to have options, and I like to have competition of games because it's healthy for the game designers anyway. Because if no one else is designing games and you put out an average game, now you're a god.
Right.
But now you put out an average game and you're not good enough. There's so much more you could have done in your game to design it better. And I think that oversaturation, which I don't think is a term that I would ever use, I think with the amount of games coming out within the past 10 years is good for the hobby. I mean, look at video games. Look how many video games come out. Look how many mobile apps come out.
Right.
People move on quicker, but at the same time, I think the only person it's bad for in some ways is publishers, because their game might come out, make a spike, bam, you sold 1,000 copies, you're done.
Right.
Whereas before, if there wasn't a lot of competition, you sell tons more copies. But at the same time, that entices them to hire designers that design really good games to make those evergreens or whatever they're called, where they sit on shelves like Ticket to Ride and sell 10 million copies or whatever.
Right.
I don't know. And a lot of people are talking about the bubble bursting. I don't get that either. Talking about the board games are just going to take a big plummet. Why would they ever do that? What's going to happen to cause that to do so?
The only thing that would happen to make that happen?
Yeah. Well, they talk about oversaturation because there's so many games.
It won't happen because of oversaturation. I mean, you might have publishers tank because of it, but it's just because there's a lot stronger competition. It's harder to get started. But my main point, the economy goes down. And you got to focus your money on other things besides, because it is it's a hobby, but it's like, what's the word?
It's an expendable. Or it's not necessary for you to live.
Exactly.
It's not shelter or water.
Your
or
house
food.
payment, your food, clothing, like that is going to obviously come first. And there might be a point where if the economy gets to a point where we're all having some issues, some kind of recession of a point.
That's true, but didn't the recession happen like in 2007 or something? 2008? I don't know. Wasn't it around that area?
It might have been.
I mean, and it didn't. I don't feel like it did that much, because there's a lot of games around that time that came out that were amazing. There was hundreds and hundreds of games that still came out.
Right.
So maybe if it was worse than that, sure. I don't see how the bubble's going to burst. I don't see any kind of oversaturation. I think a lot of people started, this was like a doom and gloom thing last year because there was so many games that came out at Gen Con.
Right.
What was it like? Was it last year? There was like 1,500 or something.
I can't recall.
I don't know. This year was like 700. It was like way less. But that one year was literally an anomaly compared to the rest of the years. So I don't know. I don't see it. I don't see how there's so many games that unless you just get overwhelmed easily, sure. Oh, well, there's so many games. I don't know what to do. I'm just going to sit here and play video games instead.
Right. No, I think if I have any concern, I think it's just a personal one. It's me worrying that I'm going to miss something. I'm like a little kid that doesn't want to go to sleep, because I'm scared that I'm going to miss something. I mean, eventually you'll find out about it through word of mouth or it'll get some kind of buzz, but
that's true. There are a lot of games that probably slip through the crack, new releases because they're not a big publisher or they didn't market it very well, or maybe the theme wasn't as great or as appealing to a lot of people, though the game was just absolutely ridiculously good. And maybe it slipped through cracks. But at the same time, what were you doing with the rest of your time while that was happening? You were playing awesome games, unless you choose not to play awesome games and you pick garbage over and over for some reason. But then that's not really the gaming, like a hobby industry, I guess, pick games that's going to appeal to you more. But I just think that as long as you're playing really good games for the time that you're playing games, or the time that you have to play games, it's all win-win. I guess that some people, like the collectors, like when they...
I could see a collector having a problem.
Yeah. Good luck. But if you have a collecting mentality, maybe the oversaturation would affect you a lot more, because I know sometimes if I got a card game, I can play tons of CCGs where I have like almost the whole set, and then I'm like, oh, I'm missing like 10 cards. No. Then the game goes out of business and the company goes out of business, the game stops being produced, whatever. And then years later, I'm like, man, I really wish, like I did this with a WoW Minis game. I busted them out so I can do a little video on the Throat Punch Lunch episode on Dice Tower. And I realized I was missing like literally 8 models.
Oh man.
Over both sets. I'm like, that's slightly annoying because it's like 8 models, like 4 of them are legendaries and like the other 4 are just commons or something.
Right.
I'm like, why am I missing these? I don't know. Any other thoughts on this oversaturation in board gaming, which I feel like is never a thing?
Nah.